Welcome back, and now it's time for Lindsey's Lens. What have you got for us today, my friend?
Yeah, I'm still riled up about NPR. So this week, NPR's editor-in-chief and acting chief content officer, Edith Chapin, announces that she's stepping down, a decision that she says was entirely her own. But the timing couldn't feel more symbolic. Her resignation comes just days after Congress voted to eliminate all $1.1 billion in federal funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which supports NPR and PBS. And while NPR itself doesn't heavily rely on these federal dollars, the same can't be said for its member stations, which are especially in those rural areas where the grants really keep the lights on. Now, this, to me, isn't just a media story. It's a story about who gets to stay informed and who gets left behind. Let's start with Chapin. During her time at NPR, she didn't just hold a title, she elevated the newsroom. She led the charge to hire senior editors, specifically tasked with ensuring fairness, accuracy, and balance across NPR's reporting. In a time when media bias has become, let's say, a political football, Chapin doubled down on journalistic standards, which is important. She once said, quote, "We need to hear from all kinds of people, and that is our job. We need to be as clear and transparent as we possibly can be, and our audiences can decide how useful we are for them." Her departure is a loss for public journalism at a moment when it's already under siege. Now let's talk about that funding cut. It's a move that's small-minded and short-sighted. Here's why I think so. First, rural communities will be hit the hardest. Small stations don't have access to the same corporate donors and big sponsors as big city outlets. Without federal funding, they risk shutting down entirely, meaning cutting off access to local news, weather alerts, and educational programming for some. Second, public media is a lifeline. It's not a luxury. Nearly 3 in 4 Americans, 3 in 4, rely on public radio for public safety updates. It's also the home of beloved shows, yes, I have a toddler, like Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger, especially for families who cannot afford streaming platforms, and there are people out there. So third, not everyone has Wi-Fi. Lawmakers arguing that public media is, quote, obsolete, forget that rural broadband is still unreliable in many parts of the country. Radio is still a reliable source of information that many Americans are using. This funding cut also defies the original purpose of public broadcasting, which was meant to provide unbiased educational content for all Americans. So stripping it away because of perceived political slights, that's retaliation, that's not policy. So yes, Edith Chapin may have chosen to leave, but we all lose something when a principled journalist walks away in the shadow of a system that's being dismantled. And what's at stake isn't just news, it's access, it's education, and I think it's equity.
We have discussed this before, so you know that I disagree with you. I disagree with every word you just said.
It
is
so
absolutely obsolete. It is an editorial product that I should not be. There is no requirement in the Constitution there to fund some media property that I have to pay for. You say that streaming platforms cost money. YouTube has children's programming that is free. It has
Some
great
people don't have
programming.
reliable access to Wi-Fi. COVID showed us that. Like, I understand that the vast majority of people that have access to social media, seeing it across the globe, feel like this is the standard for everyone. But there are rural areas where Wi-Fi is limited or lack of access actually affects people.
Elon Musk can beam Wi-Fi into the Ukraine battlefields. Well,
Instead of Elon Musk taking the money away from vulnerable people, maybe he should help then. That would be a great idea.
Elon Musk is actually doing more to provide internet service to people than
But what about in America?
NPR.
What about in America? We use radio. That's what I'm saying. So you don't want people to have access to Amber Alerts. Let's say they don't have a phone. You don't want them to have access to severe weather alerts in the middle of the country where we could see a tornado or anything like. These are important information. This is important information. Like, you don't have grandparents that still keep the radio on, and that's how they find out what the latest is. Like, this is what NPR provides in local rural areas. And even though NPR will still exist as this federal website and a place where people can find national news, locally, if people don't have access to that Wi-Fi or don't get on the NPR website or have access to the channel anymore that was supplementing NPR, they won't be able to watch
then I would say
PBS or NPR.
If there's truly some kind of market failure where there's some area that is cut off from information because it's too remote, we're talking about a very small number of people. But then I would say if the government has to do something, it should take that $1 billion and build more telephone poles or satellites or whatever is necessary to get coverage to get information to those people using the new mediums that we will be a part of instead of subsidizing a specific editorial product. In the same way, I would say, what if I prefer my information from Fox News? That's how a lot of My grandparents like to get their information, and if Fox wasn't making ends meet or something, would we ever say, okay, they should get $1 billion of taxpayer funding to get that information to the people who like to watch? I'm sure you would rebel against that idea, as would I, even though I like Fox and I'm on it sometimes, because I would never ask taxpayers to forcibly pay for something they don't agree with.
Well, I think that it has to be a conversation about what happens next.
Sesame Street or no?
No, you need to have some empathy for Sesame Street, okay?
I don't.
But the biggest thing for me is that there's not being something replaced with something. It's like, let's just cut this. This is what we as conservative have been trying to do for years. Let's just do it and get it done. But to what end? So let's say there is a small, quote, that's your quote, population that is affected by not having access to this radio and this information. So what will it be replaced with? So if they came with a policy, even if it was Republicans, I don't care who came with a policy that says this is what we'll do to replace the people that don't have access to information, to provide access like Wi-Fi access, or to make sure people have transportation access to get to the library. These are all solutions that I would be open to hearing.
If people
but I'm
value
not
it, they'll
hearing
pay for it.
No, some people can't afford it. That's the problem. Some people cannot afford, and so that is what NPR and public broadcasting does, because it provides access to people who can't afford. There are less.
I guess then the local government has to raise taxes, or has to. I mean, that's a task for the governance of the people in that area to figure out how to meet that need. If it's a real failure, I don't see why it's. That means I have to pay for the salaries of some. Columbia graduates who hate my values and want to enforce wokeness and DEI,
and do as a leader,
I have to. They're entitled to jobs. It doesn't make any sense.
Propose a bill that shows how people will still have access to important, vital information, even if it was a choice system that will help subsidize. What is it that will give people? Is it a cable subscription? What would it be that would be subsidized? That give people? You said Trump could easily hand out. Let's say you take that 1.1 billion and hand out $1,000 or whatever to each person. Like that's something that seems better to you. Well, then he should propose it. There should be policies in the forefront that's like, okay, this is the plan. This is the way forward. But all I see is let's just cut NPR, cut all these international aid, and don't help anyone. That's just our statement.
My view of government is it being very small and doing nothing. But if it has to do, I would rather just give, instead of these programs to, micromanage everything. Government's not very good at that. Government's not really very good at anything. Just if we have to do something, instead all the money they get, just like give it to people. Just like here's a direct aid transfer, and you're poor. Here's some money. Make your life better, and if you don't make your life better, oh well, we tried, but some people will better themselves. That is, I think, a better use of taxpayer dollars than here's some program we can build up because we like it and it has editorial views that half of America hates. It just seems stupid to me.
But you're discounting everything else. So there may be one NPR article that you didn't like, but you're discounting the educational program that actually
It goes a little beyond that. NPR said we will not cover the Hunter Biden story because we don't cover fake stories. That was making a choice that one of the important stories of that election cycle was not something they wanted to educate their readers about.
And there's always room for people to grow. They're human beings. NPR is not some entity that operates on its own.
It can do whatever it wants. I don't even want to argue about whether it's biased. I don't care.
Okay,
I just don't want to pay for it. It's just not my, I'm not going to be forced to pay for it because I don't agree with it.
Well, I think people should have an option at least and provide it with a different option.
I think if they want to pay for it, they can, and if they don't have to. Options is what I'm all about, Lindsay.
Next year is the final year for Stephen Colbert and The Late Show. But the host didn't hold back on mocking the network for the reasoning behind the cancellation. We'll dive into it after this. Stay with us.